Have you ever pondered why Leviticus chapter 23 is so laden with festivals and holy convocations? This chapter, tucked away in the third book of the Torah and the Old Testament, stands as a vibrant tapestry of sacred celebrations. It's a rhythmic dance of faith and devotion, weaving together a rich pattern of divine appointments. Each festival, each holy convocation holds a unique significance, echoing the profound relationship between God and his people. Stay tuned as we explore the depths of Leviticus chapter 23 verse by verse. Or dive with us into the first 3 verses of Leviticus chapter 23. In the beginning verses of this chapter, the narrative unfolds with God engaging in a conversation with Moses. The divine voice instructs Moses about the Sabbath day, a day of cessation from regular work. This day, according to the scriptures, is to be set apart, sanctified, and revered as holy. It is a day dedicated to rest and reflection, a day for the soul to rejuvenate and reconnect with the divine spirit. Now let's dissect this a bit further. What is the Sabbath day and why is it so significant? The term Sabbath originates from the Hebrew word Shabbat, which essentially means to cease or to rest. This concept of a day of rest is not only unique to the scriptures, but is also a universal principle that transcends across various cultures and epochs. God, in his wisdom, knew the importance of rest. He understood the necessity for a break in the constant stream of work and worldly pursuits. He recognized that humans, just like any other creature, require a respite, a pause, to regain their strength and vitality. Hence, the Sabbath was not just a commandment, but a gift, a blessing for mankind. The Sabbath also serves as a reminder of God's creation. It harks back to the Genesis account where God, after 6 days of creation, rested on the 7th day, setting a pattern for mankind to follow. It's a day to acknowledge God's sovereignty, to meditate on his goodness, and to express gratitude for his blessings. This day of rest is not merely about physical relaxation, it's about spiritual refreshment as well. It's a time to disconnect from the mundane and reconnect with the divine. It's a day to reflect on God's word, to pray, to worship, and to bask in his presence. From these verses, we see the foundation of a weekly day of rest, a principle that still holds true today. The Sabbath day is not an outdated concept, but a timeless truth, a necessary pause in the rhythm of life, a day to rest, reflect, and rejuvenate. Now let's journey into the Feast of Passover, as described in verses 4 to 8. The Feast of Passover, or Pesach, as it's known in Hebrew, is a pivotal event in the Jewish calendar. This feast is a commemoration of the Israelites' liberation from Egyptian bondage, a miraculous exodus led by Moses around the 15th day of the first month, Nisan, in the Jewish calendar. The historical significance of Passover is profound. It celebrates freedom, the triumph of the oppressed, and the divine intervention that led the Israelites out of Egypt. The story is a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human will, guided by faith and the promise of a better tomorrow. But Passover is not merely a celebration of the past, it's a living tradition that continues to resonate with people today. During this feast, families gather to share a special meal, the Seder, which is filled with symbolic foods and rituals that remind us of the Israelites' journey. The unleavened bread, or matzah, for instance, represents the haste in which the Israelites left Egypt, leaving no time for their bread to rise. Leviticus 23 also outlines the religious obligations during this period, specifically the requirement to make an offering to God. This offering, as described in verses 5 to 8, is a fire offering, a sacrifice made to God. It's a testament of devotion, a symbolic act of gratitude for the divine intervention that enabled the Israelites' escape from Egypt. In this act, we see an expression of faith, a recognition of God's sovereignty, and a tangible demonstration of gratitude. The offering, in essence, is a way for the people to give back, to acknowledge the divine favor they've received, and to express their unwavering faith in God. In the Feast of Passover, we see a celebration of liberation and a time of offering It's a festival deeply rooted in history, yet its message of freedom, faith, and gratitude continues to echo through the ages, touching the hearts of millions around the world. It serves as a powerful reminder of our human capacity for resilience and the transformative power of faith. Let's delve into the Feast of Firstfruits, as depicted in verses 9 to 14. The Feast of Firstfruits is a celebration of gratitude, a moment to pause and appreciate the bounty that has been bestowed upon the people. It's a time to bring forth the first of the harvest, the first fruits, as an offering to God. The Feast of Firstfruits is marked as a sacred day, a Sabbath of sorts where no regular work was to be done. The people were commanded to bring an offering of the first grain they harvested, typically barley, to the priest. This offering was not just a physical act, but a symbolic gesture of devotion and gratitude, a way of acknowledging that all good things come from God. As we dig deeper into the context, we understand that this offering was not solely about the physical produce. The Feast of First Fruits was a symbolic representation of the people's relationship with God. The first fruits were the first and the best of the harvest. By offering them, the people showed their trust in God, their belief that He would provide for them, and their commitment to put Him first in their lives. Moreover, the Feast of First Fruits also has prophetic significance in the Christian faith. It is seen as a foreshadowing of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who is often referred to as the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. The resurrection of Christ, like the offering of the first fruits, marked a new beginning, a promise of more good things to come. The requirement for the people to make an offering was not a burdensome demand, but rather an invitation to participate in a divine relationship. It was an opportunity to express gratitude for God's generosity and to reaffirm their faith and trust in His provision. Through the Feast of First Fruits, we comprehend the concept of giving back to God what He has generously provided. We learn the principle of putting God first in our lives, trusting in His provision, and expressing our gratitude through our offerings. This understanding of the Feast of First Fruits paints a vivid picture of the divine relationship between God and His people, a relationship marked by trust, gratitude, and mutual commitment. Now we explore the Feast of Weeks as highlighted in verses 15 to 22. The Feast of Weeks, also known as Shavuot or Pentecost, is a significant event in the Hebrew calendar. It occurs 7 weeks or 50 days after Passover, marking the end of the barley harvest and the beginning of the wheat harvest. This timing is symbolic, representing the transition from the slavery of Egypt, symbolized by the barley, to the freedom given by God, represented by the wheat. The offerings for this feast are unique, unlike any other. 2 loaves of bread are baked from the new wheat harvest. These are the first fruits, a symbol of the blessings to come. Alongside the bread, 7 lambs, 1 young bull, and 2 rams are offered as a burnt offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Additionally, a male goat is sacrificed for sin, and 2 lambs are presented as a fellowship offering. This feast, however, is not just about offerings. It's a day of proclamation, a holy gathering, a day of complete rest from labor. It's a time to celebrate God's provision and to give thanks for the harvest. But the Feast of Weeks is also a time of generosity. In verse 22, we find the command not to harvest the corners of the fields, but to leave them for the poor and the stranger. This practice echoes the heart of God's generosity, reminding us that the blessings we receive are not just for ourselves, but to be shared with others. In its essence, the Feast of Weeks is a celebration of God's faithfulness and provision. It's a time to give thanks, to rest, and to share. It's a time to remember that we are not only receivers, but also givers of God's blessings. Today, the principles behind the Feast of Weeks still hold true. We are called to be thankful, to rest in God's provision, and to share our blessings with those around us. The Feast of Weeks, a time for thanksgiving and generosity, resonates even in our current times. As we draw to a close, let's summarize the key points from Leviticus chapter 23. In this chapter, we've journeyed through a series of sacred observances, each with their unique significance and profound teachings. We began with the weekly Sabbath, a day of rest and reflection, setting the tone for the entire chapter. Next, we explored the Feast of Passover, a memorial of liberation from bondage in Egypt. This feast underscores the theme of deliverance, reminding us of the power of faith and courage in the face of adversity. We then moved on to the Feast of First Fruits, a celebration of the early harvest. This observance reinforces the importance of gratitude and the recognition of divine provision in our lives. Our journey continued with the Feast of Weeks, a commemoration of the full harvest. This feast, also known as Pentecost, encourages us to remember the blessings of abundance and to share our bounty with others. Finally, we've seen how these feasts are more than mere rituals. They are symbolic expressions of faith, gratitude, deliverance, and abundance. Each feast offers a different lens through which to view our lives and our relationship with the divine. Leviticus chapter 23, filled with rich history and profound lessons, continues to be a source of inspiration and guidance for many, even today. Are you ready for the next chapter? Just click here to go straight to it.